Live from the Orion Cygnus arm of the Milky Way galaxy, this is Scientifically Speaking, a weekly half-hour program devoted to elegant curiosities. And I am one of your hosts, Sarah Chang, and joining me, as always, is Bernie Rhyme, DJ Star Watcher. How are you, Bernie?
Yes, hi Sarah, very good, thank you.
Bernie's our professor of the astronomy lab at USM and our local protector of the night skies. Reach out to us at WMPG Scientifically Speaking at gmail.com or on Twitter at WMPG SciSpeak. And if you missed today's show or any of your other favorite shows from the radio station, you can go to WMPG.org and check out the last 5 weeks of archives. Bernie, could you
Yes.
let our listeners know what is up in the night sky for this coming week?
Okay, certainly. So this is Friday, March 19th. So we're going to have a waxing crescent moon, almost the first quarter. So basically, it's going to be up for a while. You know, it comes up at noontime and doesn't set till like midnight, so it'll be in the sky. And then, so the planets, Mars will be the only evening planet, which has been the case pretty much for a month and a half now. And of course, since we just landed a rover on Mars, that'll be interesting to keep in mind. And by this time, maybe they will be flying the little drone, the Ingenuity drone also. So that's the only evening planet. And actually, the month of March is named after Mars, too. So that'll fit in nicely, even though Mars is not at its best now, it was at its best back in October. But it's still the evening planet, probably sets around 10 o'clock at night, so it's definitely still up. And then if you like getting up early, Jupiter and Saturn are getting higher, getting a little further apart, of course, than they were at the winter solstice, because we're almost here at spring, so a whole season later. So that's basically it. Just by now, they'll probably have some interesting updates on the Perseverance rover and all the new things they're discovering while you're actually looking at the planet. You can be thinking of those things that we're discovering. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Bernie.
Yep.
And if you couldn't take notes just fast enough, you can also check out the monthly What's Up column in the Portland Press Herald. And just a reminder, it's Begathon week here at WMPG, and we need your support. Why? Well, because we can't do in-person begging, and it takes a whole lot to keep the station afloat. So just a reminder, Begathon is all this week until the 22nd. Visit WMPG.org and click the donate button to make your gift and support community radio in Southern Maine. And just a reminder, we love you for it and hope you can show your love by donating. How was that, Bernie?
That's good.
My little bag.
You gotta be the beggar in chief when you do this for them. Because now it's up to you. It's not some impersonal radio station. It's actually you asking for it.
Yeah, it's
I
actually
told
us.
you with that. Yeah.
All right. So, Bernie, you had mentioned this a little bit earlier during your What's Up in the Night Sky. Let's chat a little bit about Perseverance because as of the time of this recording, we're recording a little bit earlier. And so Perseverance is kind of big news. And it landed
18th,
Thursday.
February 18th at
Oh,
3:55.
yeah, the 18th.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I mean, that was pretty amazing. It had a trip of 7 months and almost 300 million miles. And it was so accurate. It was basically, I heard the comparison, throwing a dart from New York to Chicago and hitting the bullseye on a dartboard over 1,500 miles.
oh my
Of
God.
course, it's a little more than 1,500 miles, but it's that accurate, and they could do that because the Perseverance is not just an update of Curiosity; it's a much more high-tech rover. It has cameras, 23 cameras, a built-in telemetry. So when those 7 minutes of terror happened, when we lost contact with it, obviously because it's coming in at 12,000 miles an hour, but it was able to take pictures of itself, and we didn't see the pictures till after it landed. But so it just so much, it's going to do so much more, probably 100 times more amazing things than Curiosity.
Wow. And how long will it be there for?
Oh, it's going to be good for probably at least 4 years, probably more. Curiosity's been up there 10 years.
Mm,
It's powered by RTGs, and they really don't run out. That's a
yeah.
radioisotope thermonuclear generator using plutonium oxide. I mean, it's a really neat thing. So they got plenty of power. They're not depending on little solar panels keeping clean with the dust like
Yeah.
like the other ones were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I also read that Perseverance can travel at 200 meters a day. Something
Yeah.
like that. That's a lot, I guess.
A lot more than the other one, and
Yeah.
it has better tires and better camera systems, so it's not going to run over stuff or get worn out or get stuck, fall over. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think another thing we were talking about this a little bit before the show, but there's no GPS on Mars, and I don't know the technology super well, but it uses some kind of augmented reality to navigate around and get to where it needs to go. So
Yeah,
it's
like
very
the
cool.
self-driving cars. It takes these pictures, and every little rock and boulder will show up, and then it has to make all these decisions fully autonomous, which is kind of good. And you don't have to wait the 12 minutes. But Mars is 12 minutes away at the speed of
Yep.
light, so we don't have to wait, and it can do a lot more on its own. Because otherwise, the Curiosity and even the Sojourner and some of the earlier things, were really limited. We had to wait the 12 minutes before we run over something or fall off a cliff. So that's not going to be the case for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, go Perseverance.
Yeah.
Sounds like it'll be a great mission for him.
Oh yeah.
So for today's show, we want to do a little overview of somebody who is a Greek goddess of hunting, of wild nature, forests, and also, I thought this is interesting, chastity, childbirth, and fertility. She's the daughter of Zeus and Leto. And there's a temple for her at Ephesus in Turkey. The temple was about double the dimensions of the Parthenon, fun fact, and it was destroyed in a deliberate fire and rebuilt twice before ultimately being torn down by a Christian mob. And only one solitary column remains of this temple. And known as Diana to the Romans, born near Ephesus, she is the twin daughter of Apollo. And we're talking about Artemis, which is the new mission to the moon that is supposed to happen in 2024 when we kind of start getting. The goal was to get people on the moon by 2024, right?
On a
There
regular basis,
are,
not just
yeah,
come back 3 days later.
right. There are going to be some other missions that will happen, but as far as people go, 2024 was the goal. Artemis is the collaboration with kind of commercial and international partners, and it's the goal is to really establish this sustainable presence on the moon and to prepare for missions to Mars. And so for today's show, we're gonna kind of go over some of the, or maybe all of the astronauts that were selected.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we certainly should mention them all. There's 18 of them, but they're all very inspirational, and we can learn a lot from all of them. Like something we would highlight a person for women in science or something.
Yeah,
We won't say as much about them, but they all have 2 to 3 minute videos. And I encourage our listeners maybe to watch some of those and to see the diversity and the amazing things in engineering. They're not all test pilots or either. So a huge range of what their skills are. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So out of you said 12,000 applicants it was.
12,000 people wanted to go to the moon. Yeah,
Yeah, and this was back in 2019,
2019.
right?
Yeah, I think so.
2019 was when they made the call, and then they announced their official selections of the 18 on 2021.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted to just note that the reason I think that they chose 18 is because, and we'll talk about this later, as the human the Orion, the launch system, they'll carry about six
Yeah,
is
it's six,
what,
right? It's
yeah,
triple, it's double. Apollo could do three, and Orion does six. So
yeah,
3 times 6, that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. I assume that's why. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess they could always rotate them, but yeah. So who is your favorite? Well, who is one of the most
Well, probably Jessica
inspiring ones?
Meir. I mean, that should be every Maine's person. I met her twice in person. Even met her mom. She's Swedish. Her mom's Swedish. And I met her at the Space Day events we used to have in person. We didn't, last May, obviously. And I mean, she's just made her first trip to the ISS,
Hmm.
and she has a slightly different story because she has a PhD in biology, and she's not a test pilot, but she's from Caribou, Maine, so she's my favorite.
Yeah, yeah. Came back during a pandemic.
Oh yeah, I know. She went up. Everything was fine. Wasn't a trace anywhere. She came back in April when it was like the worst.
Yeah. I wonder what it was like for them to see that up in space. I don't know if they could sense anything from up there, looking
Oh.
down. I don't know. I just imagine because they see the lights.
Hmm.
I guess I wouldn't have been affected. Never mind.
No. Yeah. No. She knew
All
about it
right.
through the news, but otherwise she
Yeah.
wouldn't have really known about it, right? It had
Yeah.
no.
All right. So Jessica Meir. Who
Yeah.
else?
Well, they picked no, 9 men and 9 women, and half of them, so 9 of them are rookies. They've never even been to space. So their first mission will be this whole Artemis thing going to the moon when they haven't even been on the ISS. So I found that kind of interesting. And then I
Mm.
met another one at the Johnson Space Center. I was there, I had mentioned a few times in Houston, just about exactly a year ago, a year and a month ago. So Joe Acaba. So he's one of the older ones, but he has 3 flights and 3 spacewalks. He was a high school science teacher who wanted to become an astronaut full fledged, not just go up as a teacher. So he has a very interesting story. And then there's 3 African Americans, 4 Asian Americans, I mean, an Iranian American. They have a really good range of people, and they're all incredible. But I think Jessica, and well, Christina Koch, because she did the
Hmm.
first all woman spacewalk with Jessica. And she had actually come back last year when I was in Houston at the Johnson Space Center. Christina was coming back, and Jessica was still going up at that time. And she's pretty incredible because she does mountain climbing and skiing and sailing, and then she has a PhD in, I think, engineering.
Electrical.
Elec-
Well,
Yeah,
BS in electrical and physics, MS in electrical. I don't know if she has a PhD.
yeah.
Maybe she got one since I did
Well,
my
maybe she meant,
research.
okay, yeah. Well, most of them have so many degrees, and of course you have to know the languages and the
Yeah.
Russians because they have Russians in the ISS. I don't know on the moon actually how they're going to collaborate because these are 18, American people with our mission here,
Hmm.
but they're all very inspirational. Let me see. Then there's Johnny Kim.
Yeah, he's a big one. He
Yeah, yeah,
he's been circulated around the Asian American community as kind of the why can't you be more like Johnny example
yeah,
from all the parents.
yeah.
But
Hmm.
he's the first Korean American, which is really cool. BS in math, doctorate of medicine, and also a Navy SEAL. Um,
Yeah,
so pretty incredible there. One that I really was into is Keel Lindgren. I think that's how you spell
yeah,
pronounce his
sure.
name,
Yep.
Keel.
Hmm.
So he's half Taiwanese, which I'm like, woohoo. But he has a BS
Well,
in
yeah, he's
bio.
Taiwanese.
Yeah, his
Yeah,
master's is in cardiovascular physiology, and he's also a doctor of medicine. And then I think Bernie, you had mentioned he used to be a flight surgeon,
yep.
which I'm not quite sure what that means.
Well, I think that means because he is an actual doctor, so when you go on a flight when he was flying, he would be the surgeon if anything happened to the other people.
Okay.
I mean,
Hmm.
that doesn't mean he has to perform surgery, but he would be able to with the crew, with the group.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like an engineer could do engineering things or whatever their specialties are.
Yeah.
He was a flight surgeon. I think he was a practicing doctor too.
Yeah. And I think one of the other ones
Mhm.
is Kate Rubins.
Yeah.
She has a PhD in cancer biology, very specific.
Mhm.
And I think she sequenced DNA in space, which is
Yep.
kind of a cool one.
Yeah, she was out in the ISS when the other group, the first group with the Dragon capsule came up.
Oh yeah.
With long blonde hair, and she had to do all the setups. I was watching all that live a couple months ago. So that was Kate Rubin. So like the whole world, if they were watching that or saw the reruns afterwards, got to know her a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Who else caught your eye, Bernie?
Well, Victor Glover, because I kind of get a sense that I know him. I haven't met him in Johnson at the Space Center, but he went up on that Dragon capsule when Kate Rubin was on the space station. So this was Victor's first flight. So now getting ready for Artemis, he'll have one flight, and he's up there right now. He's
Hmm.
African American. He has the more classic thing. He was a Navy test pilot. The F-18 was his specialty, but he did a lot of other incredible things. He was a wrestler in high school, and has a really good history of all that. So he's like your more classical approach to it. But he's up there right now, and everyone got to say a few things before they launched on the Dragon capsule to go back a few months ago to the ISS. So
And then didn't you say there was a teacher?
yes, well, that was Joe Acaba. I might have mentioned.
Oh, oh, oh.
Yeah, he was a high school science teacher, and then
Right,
he
right,
made the
right.
full leap to becoming a full astronaut.
Yeah. And he's a little bit different too. I guess he's kind of like Jessica Watkins. They both have geology degrees.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a little bit different. So you'll see amongst the 18, a lot of them have some combination of engineering degrees. So there's a lot of mechanical, a lot of electrical, a lot of aerospace as well,
Mhm.
um, Where so some of those the kind of natural sciences they stand out a little bit more.
Yeah. And then Roger Cherry was pretty interesting. I mean, Asian, he's Indian American,
Hmm.
Asian American. So he went to MIT. He's a test pilot. So, I mean, yeah, he's definitely always the top of his class and everything he's done. So
Yeah.
glad they picked him too. Yeah.
Did any of them say anything that kind of was inspiring?
Oh, all of them did. I mean, they had really good philosophies. Like one of them, it might have been, he said something like he used to help to keep the world from going backwards, and now he's helping the world go forwards.
Mm,
Yeah, I think he might have been one of the surgeons or something, and now he can do that. And then another person said, well, someone will have to succeed, meaning being able to do this, going to the moon. So it may as well be you. I mean, meeting that person. So I think that's something we can all learn from because we have a voice saying that maybe you can't do that or whatever, but obviously we can because they have done it, and they're just good role models and inspirational for all of us. We
yeah.
probably won't achieve all the things they've achieved, but still, just to see, and all the ones that have been to space, as I said, half of them are rookies and half have been. They were still talking, even in just a 3-minute video, of the amazing views from space and what that's really like, the vibrant colors, seeing the Earth as one. One was really interesting. She felt a more of a closeness to Earth from 250 miles in space than when you're on the surface.
Yeah.
Because you see the whole thing, you know you're gravitationally bound. They have gravity up there too. Of course, they're weightless, but gravity is there. But just feeling closer to Earth when you're in space was a really different view I hadn't heard before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the age range of this group? Do you
Okay,
know?
yes, the age range is from 33 to 55.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better because I'm not
Yeah.
quite 33.
Okay. Well, Caleb Aaron is the youngest. So she was into the submarines. She's a systems engineer from the Naval Academy.
Oh
She
yeah, yeah, she was a
compared it to
warfare
being on a
officer.
submarine. Yep.
Yeah.
And she loved being on the submarines and getting along with everyone. She had really good mentors. All these people were so humble. They were crediting everybody else, but they're the ones that are really shining to be able to do all this. They put all the work in, but they don't take credit for all this themselves. All 18 of them were like this,
Yeah.
which I like. I think we can learn from that too, because we
Yeah.
think we're so great at something, but we haven't achieved that, and we maybe don't give enough credit to our mentors and everything. Kayla was really good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Bernie, for the review of these 18 astronauts, and we can link to them, but you can certainly find out more about them anywhere on the web.
Mhm.
So, just a reminder, this is Begathon week, and we need your support. So, we don't have call in, so you can just visit wmpg.org and click the donate button. I know, it's just another kind of virtual portal, but we got to do this and make your gift known. Show your support for us, for myself and Bernie, for Scientifically Speaking, for all the guests who come on our show, and for the radio station. And we're begging well, we started begging on the 16th and we're going until the 22nd. So back to Artemis. We're gonna highlight a couple of the various systems that are involved that need to be built for Artemis to kind of really happen. So there's a couple things. The first is building systems, like ground systems, to support launches from the Kennedy Space Center, and then of course SpaceX. I think they've offered their kind of Falcon X to send some stuff, but we need kind of ground systems to support these launches. And so that needs to be built. The second thing is there needs to be a space launch system to actually send humans and cargo to the moon and beyond. And so there's a couple of things that will actually be used for transporting our humans and our cargo, and then for receiving the spacecraft. So I mentioned the Orion spacecraft, and that will carry crew to both lunar orbit and then also transfer to the human landing system. It will also be used to kind of go back to Earth. So it's supposed to be a reusable spacecraft. And I believe Orion was it started to be developed by JPL, Propulsion Laboratory, but it's not totally done yet. And so the recent news, as far as this recording, oh no, wait, I'm wrong. It was being contracted out to Lockheed Martin. So they have begun kind of the assembly ish of it. They've created kind of the, if you look at how it's shaped, it's kind of the cone shaped, system module, if you will. And this is for, I believe, Artemis 3. There's kind of like three different Artemis missions. And so one will kind of ship all the stuff there. Anyways, so the last one will be hopefully shipping the crew there. And so there's a couple different parts of it, but essentially they've completed welding these seven machine aluminum alloy pieces together. And that's kind of the latest news of how that's going.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I got
then,
to see they had an Orion capsule at the Johnson Space Center. So I got to
okay.
go in it, and it does seat six people, so that's
Yep.
probably three times six. And they showed a little movie of it taking off, or what that whole thing is going to be like when it's fully developed. So it was neat
Okay.
to see all these actual things at the Space Center a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So there's a little bit more work to be done. It will be shipped to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida
Mhm.
later this fall and will continue being assembled there. So Orion officially stands for Orion Multi-Purpose Crew Vehicle. Again, I mentioned it's reusable. It's a reusable space capsule. Bernie, you mentioned it can take six people and it's supposed to be able to last up to 21 days undocked and up to 6 months docked. There's going to be solar panels. The docking system is going to be automated. What's interesting, the cockpit interfaces are going to be modeled after the Boeing 787, their Dreamliner. They're also collaborating with Airbus to help with the secondary propulsion. So a lot of collaborations to hopefully make that happen. The one of the other systems is then Gateway, the Gateway, which is going to be the lunar outpost to support human and scientific exploration. And so there's a couple of elements to this. There's the power and propulsion element, is abbreviated as PPE, and then the habitation and logistics outpost, which abbreviated HALO. These are kind of the foundational elements of Gateway. PPE, the power propulsion element, it's going to be a 60 kilowatt class kind of solar electric propulsion spacecraft that will provide power, communications, altitude control, and basically help the gateway move to different lunar orbits. So it helps kind of provide different access points to the moon. And then Halo is going to be the actual pressurized living quarters where astronauts who visit Gateway on their way to the moon will work. So they'll take Orion from Earth, get to Gateway, and then, get to, we haven't built the actual landing on the moon part yet. So Halo will provide, that'll be the command and control center and also serve as kind of a docking hub for the outpost. And then there, it's kind of similar to the ISS. Will support kind of science investigations, to provide communication, supplement life support systems on Orion, etc.
Yeah.
And so machining for that is also underway. Northrop Grumman is working on Halo, and uh, I don't have who is working on PPE, but actually, in February of this year, NASA selected SpaceX to also provide the launch services for PPE and Halo. So that's kind of some exciting news. And I think they are targeted to launch together no earlier than May 2024 on the Falcon Heavy rocket that will launch from Kennedy.
Mhm.
And then lastly, or last two things, are the actual lunar landing system. So the lunar landers, this will allow astronauts to actually land on the lunar surface, docking with Orion or the Gateway, and then moving crew between the lunar surface and lunar orbit. But if you had been paying attention kind of beneath all the excitement of Perseverance, you'll have seen that February of this year as well, NASA had said that 2024 lunar landing may not be realistic due to lack of funding. I think, Bernie, you said there was a rocket issue
Yep.
with Blue Origin, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. And so they've kind of delayed the contracts, the assigning of the contracts for the human landing systems until April. And so there was also potentially some political reason. There's just a huge support. The development of these and the manufacturing of these would create many, many jobs. There's three bidders for the human landing system. There's Blue Origin, you mentioned that's with Amazon, Jeff Bezos, Washington Post. There's Dynetics, that's military based, so it's Lazo and Lockheed Martin, and then SpaceX, of course, with Elon. The Biden administration did continue to say that they will support the Artemis program going forward. So I think there was just concerns about the funding issues with Congress.
Yeah,
But
because you needed about an extra $4 billion a year for NASA.
yeah, I
Yeah. Well,
I
I'm glad that
forgot. I don't know if I had numbers for those. I had numbers
yeah.
somewhere, but
They have
um
22 billion now. That's their general budget, which is still tiny compared to the defense budget, of course.
yeah.
We need a little bit more to make this work, and it'll be well worth it because we're going to learn so much more than, we're not just going there to beat the Russians now. We're going to there collaborate and help all of humankind.
Yeah.
So it'll be
Yeah.
well worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. And last thing that they need to also build are the Artemis generation spacesuits. So just more decked out version of what they have probably. I didn't get too much into detail of those, but we'll see them soon.
Yep.
And
Also, the $2 million a piece. I saw a lot of spacesuits at the Johnson Space
oh
Center.
yeah.
Some of the older ones were under a million. That's pretty cheap.
Oh
The
wow.
new ones are much more high tech and sophisticated. So we just picture that more than a house, a whole mansion, $2 million for a good spacesuit.
That's crazy. I can't imagine, being one of the 18. What if you, accidentally nick one of the arms, your sleeves, and
Mm.
it's just like
Oh yeah,
tears. I'm like,
I know
wow,
that could be
that's
your
like
salary
15
for your
million
whole
dollars.
life. If you get a nick in one sleeve,
I
that's a half
know.
a million dollars off your paycheck.
And so I also wanted to highlight, just because I found it to be too much of a coincidence, but Andy Weir, who wrote the book The Martian, about this guy who is basically stuck on Mars and tries to survive and eventually finds his way back to Earth with help, of course, from NASA. And so Andy Weir actually wrote a book called Artemis, and this was released in November of 2017. The book is kind of is set in the 2080s, follows the story of this girl named Jasmine Bashara, who is a small time smuggler who turns into a criminal mastermind, and she ends up finding herself in the conspiracy of control over the moon colony. So, Artemis is this moon colony that she lives in. There's a couple things that are interesting in this. So, 85% of rocks on the surface of the moon are anorthite, which is kind of a calcium aluminum rich mineral, and it also contains a whole lot of oxygen. And so one of the things that this Artemis colony does is they smelt aluminum in large quantities to have construction materials. And so the byproduct of smelting creates this excess of oxygen. So that's kind of one way that they oxygenate the colony. And that's because there's 8 atoms for every 2 aluminum atoms. And then for food, they grow chlorella, which is a really fast growing algae grown in baths. And then they flavor the chlorella. So you can have like jalapeno spicy chlorella or something like that, or like New York steak chlorella. So, anyways, I thought that was really interesting. You should check out some of the science in there. But interestingly, 18 months after the novel was published, May 2019, NASA announces the Artemis program name. Both of them deny any kind of collaborating.
They
But I think,
stole
yeah, because of Apollo, it probably just happened to make sense to both of them. But I thought that that was really a funny coincidence.
it. Yeah. And the thing too, I mean, we're going to have a real lunar base way before 2080. It could be as early as 2035 to 2040. So
Yeah,
after all this is set up and we learn enough about the moon, then we can establish a permanent base of the moon where we don't need gateway, to keep orbiting. And they're
yeah,
going to make all the materials with 3D printers out of the lunar regolith. Obviously, you can't bring, complete buildings up. You can make it all right there. And that's
yeah,
not too far away from now, another 15 years from now. Yeah.
yeah. That's That's crazy to think about
Yeah,
those advances.
permanently living there. Yep.
Yeah, build your own 3D printer and then print
Yep.
the whole colony.
Yep. Print your whole colony on the moon. They have some really interesting designs and how they can work and everything.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
we'll have to
print
go through
houses on
that
the
on
Earth.
another show. Yeah.
Yeah, but printing them on the moon, obviously, you have to take a lot of other things into consideration. If
Yeah.
you print a house on the Earth, that's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
All right. So one last call, folks, as we end the show. It's Begathon week and we need your help. Go to wmpg.org, click donate, and make your gift to show your support for us and for the radio station. You've got until the 22nd, and you'll hear us keep begging until then. You've been listening to Scientifically Speaking here on WMPG with myself and Bernie. Stay tuned for Sports Jam with Colin and Connor. And from your favorite nerds, mask up, and we wish you healthy bodies and clean air.